Maxwell moved to a high security.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
We are here celebrating the release and the life of those two incredible people, so let's honor that.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
So Melania Trump just had a press event at the White House today, February 5th, and let me tell you, it did not go the way she probably hoped it would. We need to talk about what happened because this is a perfect example of how the Epstein scandal continues to haunt people in power and how some of them are dealing with it by simply refusing to deal with it at all. Let's start with what this event was supposed to be about. Melania held a meeting in the Blue Room of the White House with Keith Siegel, who was a freed American-Israeli hostage, and his wife, Aviva. This is actually a significant story on its own. Keith had been held captive for 484 days, and Melania had met with Aviva back in January of last year, when Keith was still in captivity. That earlier meeting apparently played a role in helping to secure his release, which is genuinely noteworthy and worth celebrating. But here's where things get interesting, and by interesting I mean problematic. This White House event, paid for by American taxpayers, held in one of the most prestigious rooms in the country, wasn't just about honoring the Siegels. Melania used this official government meeting to promote her new documentary film called Melania. Yes, you heard that right. She's got a commercial documentary, something she's presumably making money from or at least using to build her personal brand, and she brought it up during an official White House event. She literally referenced footage from her meeting with Aviva that appears in her film. She's using the People's House, the White House, as a promotional platform for her personal commercial projects. Think about that for a second. The White House, a building maintained with taxpayer dollars, security provided by taxpayer dollars, staff paid with taxpayer dollars, and it's being used as a backdrop for promoting a documentary film. When ethics experts were asked about this, they raised serious questions. This isn't normal. This isn't how first ladies typically operate. You don't use official government events to sell your products or promote your films. But when Melania was asked about this, she claimed it wasn't promotion and that the meeting was at the Siegels' request. But come on, she's the one who brought up the documentary. She's the one who mentioned the footage. That's promotion, whether she wants to call it that or not.
Do you feel it is appropriate to use an official White House event to promote your documentary?
This is not promotion. We are here celebrating the release of the hostages of Aviva and Keith. They were in Washington, D.C. They called me. They said they would like to come over to thank me and to give hugs, and that's why we are here. It has nothing to do with promotion.
But the promotional aspect, as troubling as it is, isn't even the biggest story to come out of this event. What really made headlines was what happened when a reporter asked about Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And this is where we see exactly how the Trumps are handling the Epstein situation. They're not handling it. They're running from it. A CNN reporter asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minors. This is a legitimate question for a journalist to ask, especially given the timing. Just recently, another dump of Epstein files was released, and guess what was in those documents? Evidence of a friendly relationship between Melania Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell. We're talking about a 2002 email where Melania apparently told Maxwell she looked great in a photo and described a piece about Epstein as a nice story. These are documents. These are facts. These are part of the public record now. So when a reporter asks the First Lady of the United States about her relationship with someone who facilitated the abuse of minors, that's not out of line. That's journalism. That's accountability. The American people have a right to know about the connections between their leaders and convicted criminals, especially when those criminals were involved in something as horrific as what Epstein and Maxwell were doing. But here's what Melania did. Instead of answering the question, instead of providing any kind of explanation or context, she shut it down. Immediately. Her response was, and I'm quoting here, "We are here celebrating the release and the life of these two incredible people, so let's honor that, thank you." Now, on the surface, that might sound reasonable. She's redirecting to the Siegels, to the hostages, to the people this event was supposed to be about. But listen to the tone that was reported. She was irritated, she was dismissive, and within seconds her aides were calling out, "Thank you, press," and ushering reporters out of the room. The press availability was over, just like that. This is a pattern we keep seeing with the Trumps and the Epstein files. Wherever they go, whatever they do, these questions follow them, and they should. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just some random person. He was a convicted sex offender who had relationships with some of the most powerful people in the world. Donald Trump was photographed with him multiple times. There are quotes from Trump himself talking about Epstein, calling him a terrific guy, saying he likes beautiful women as much as Trump does, and that many of them are on the younger side. Those are Trump's own words from years ago. Melania had friendly communications with Ghislaine Maxwell. These connections are documented. And now, every time they're asked about it, what do we see? Deflection. shutdown, silence. They don't give answers. They panic. They end the conversation. If there's nothing to hide, if these were just casual acquaintances from decades ago that meant nothing, why not just say that? Why not address it head on? Why not provide context? The fact that they keep shutting down these questions, the fact that they keep running away from this topic, it raises more questions than it answers. Let's talk about what's coming next, because the pressure is only going to increase. There are ongoing legal proceedings related to the Epstein case. There are testimonies being given. We know that Bill Clinton's name has come up in Epstein documents, and if Clinton is being called to testify or provide depositions about his connections to Epstein, that creates a precedent. That creates pressure on everyone whose name appears in these files. If one powerful person has to answer questions under oath about their relationship with Epstein, why shouldn't all of them? The American people deserve answers. This isn't a partisan issue. This isn't about Republican or Democrat. This is about the fact that a serial predator operated for decades with apparent access to presidents, princes, billionaires, and celebrities. And we need to know the extent of those relationships. We need to know who knew what and when they knew it. We need to know if anyone enabled this behavior or turned a blind eye to it. Every American who cares about justice, who cares about protecting children, who cares about holding powerful people accountable, should be demanding answers. It doesn't matter if you voted for Trump or against him. It doesn't matter if you like Melania or don't. What matters is that we don't let people in power simply refuse to address serious questions about their associations with convicted criminals. And that brings us back to today's event. Melania had an opportunity. She was asked a direct question by a member of the press. She could have said, "I had limited social interactions with Ghislaine Maxwell years ago at public events, before anyone knew about her crimes, and I condemn what she did." That would have been an answer. It might not have satisfied everyone, but it would have been something. Instead, she chose to shut down the question entirely. She chose to end the press conference rather than engage with a legitimate inquiry. This is not how transparency works. This is not how accountability works. When you're the First Lady of the United States, when you're living in the White House, when you're representing the American people, you don't get to pick and choose which questions you'll answer based on what's comfortable for you. You don't get to use the White House as a promotional venue for your commercial projects and then refuse to answer basic questions about your past associations. And let's be clear about what message this sends. When powerful people refuse to answer questions, when they shut down press conferences, when they have their aides usher reporters out of the room the moment an uncomfortable topic comes up, it tells the public that they have something to hide. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the refusal to engage creates that perception, and in many ways, perception becomes reality. The Epstein files aren't going away. More documents are being released. More testimonies are being given. More journalists are investigating. More survivors are speaking out. This story is going to continue, and everyone connected to Epstein, no matter how tangentially, is going to have to reckon with that connection at some point. You can only run from questions for so long before the questions catch up with you. What happened today at the White House should concern every American, not just because of the Epstein question, although that's certainly important, but because of what it represents. It represents a First Lady using taxpayer-funded government resources to promote a personal commercial project. It represents someone in a position of power shutting down legitimate press inquiries the moment they become uncomfortable. It represents a broader pattern of avoiding accountability. We should expect more from our leaders. We should expect transparency. We should expect honesty. We should expect that when serious questions are raised about associations with convicted criminals, those questions get answered, not dismissed. We should expect that the White House is used for the people's business, not for personal promotion. Melania Trump could have handled today differently. She could have answered the question about Maxwell. She could have provided context. She could have been transparent. Instead, she chose to shut it down, to walk away, to refuse to engage. And that choice tells us something. It tells us that she's not willing to face these questions. It tells us that the Trump strategy when it comes to Epstein is avoidance, not accountability. But here's the thing about avoidance. It only works for so long. Eventually, the questions pile up. Eventually, the public demands answers. Eventually, the legal system or the court of public opinion catches up. We've seen this play out time and time again with powerful people who thought they could simply refuse to address their past. It doesn't work. The truth has a way of coming out. So where does this leave us? We have a First Lady who used a White House event to promote her documentary. We have a First Lady who shut down a press conference when asked about her documented friendly communications with a woman now serving 20 years for facilitating child abuse. We have a pattern of the Trump family refusing to address their connections to one of the most notorious criminals in recent American history, and we have an American public that deserves better. This story isn't over. The Epstein files will continue to be released. More names will come out. More connections will be revealed, and every single person who had any meaningful relationship with Epstein and Maxwell will eventually have to answer for it. They'll have to explain what they knew, when they knew it, and why they maintained those relationships. That includes politicians from both parties, that includes celebrities, that includes royalty, and yes, that includes the Trumps. Today, Melania had a chance to get ahead of this story. She had a chance to be transparent. She had a chance to show the American people that she has nothing to hide. Instead, she ran. She shut it down. She refused to engage. And in doing so, she made the story bigger than it needed to be, because now we're not just talking about old emails with Ghislaine Maxwell. We're talking about why the First Lady won't answer questions about those emails. We're talking about what she's hiding and why she's so afraid to address this topic. The American people are watching. They're paying attention, they're asking questions, and they're not going to stop just because it makes powerful people uncomfortable. That's not how democracy works. That's not how accountability works. And that's exactly why today's press conference shutdown matters. It matters because it shows us who's willing to be transparent and who isn't. It matters because it shows us who respects the public's right to know and who doesn't. And it matters because it reminds us that no one, not even the First Lady of the United States, should be above answering legitimate questions about their past. So keep watching this story. Keep asking questions. Keep demanding accountability, because that's the only way we ensure that justice is served and that powerful people can't simply avoid consequences by shutting down press conferences and refusing to engage. Today was just one example of a much larger pattern, and that pattern needs to end.